Hi, I'm author Simon Higgins, and I'm looking forward to discussing my law enforcement background, journey as a writer, process as an author, and of course my new book, Dragons of Dusk and Dawn, with Australian book lovers.
Once upon a time. Welcome to Australian Book Lovers, your destination for imagination.
A big warm welcome to everyone and a huge thank you for joining us for the Australian Book Lovers podcast. Our mission, of course, is to bring fabulous Australian and Indigenous literature that spans a whole range of genres to book lovers all around the globe, as well as fantastic resources and information for passionate authors looking to write their next bestseller. I am Darren Kesenko, dystopian, sci-fi and horror author, avid reader, and one of your hosts and co-founders of Australian Book Lovers, coming to you today from a slightly injured Ghana country.
And I'm Veronica Strachan, aka V.E. Patton, fantasy, sci-fi, memoir and picture book writer, voracious reader of many genres, and your other co-founder and host, coming to you today from an absolutely delightful 20-degree day in Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung country over here in Victoria.
Yes, well, we always do have a little bit of a moment to contemplate this bizarre, unpredictable thing called weather. We went from 25, then we had a 40-degree day. We had a lady at the end of the street get her face bitten by what has turned out to be a great white, a white pointer, not a big one. So, yes, my favourite little snorkel section. Turns out you can get your head bitten by sharks there. And from 40 degrees back to, yes, I would say a little bit of a balmy 20. So there we go. Maybe that says something about sudden hot days. Don't go swimming, but no.
Don't go swimming?
I don't know the shark's behaviour.
Tricky, very tricky, and I hope that lady is well. But yes, here we are.
Yes, absolutely. She's
episode 99.
Yes, that's good. But episode 99, yes, Shark Tales aside, it is episode 99, which means we are one away from the champagne popping, which we have been leading up to for so very long. So
it has been a while.
That's going to be looking good. But in the meantime, episode 99, absolutely. Shall we jump straight into it? Would you like to?
Yeah, absolutely, because we have got a fabulous interview with David Cohen, who he's got some fantastic names for his novels, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in the meantime, tell us about number 99. I'm sure you're going to.
Yes, well, I was just blabbering over everything then. But yes, so a little bit about the number 99 to celebrate this episode. The number 99 apparently symbolises change and personal development. It is often, well, it's a meaning that is supportive when you're going through a transformative phase in your life, like turning a new page in your story. The number suggests that you're on the verge of a significant decision or change in your life. There we are. Well, we are on the verge of a significant event.
Yes.
Absolutely. So,
indeed.
But, yes. The number 99.
And we won't even count how horribly close we are to Christmas, but there you go.
Absolutely, yes. We won't worry about the jingle bells.
No.
Now, there's no bingo, of course, for 99.
There isn't, but I have got some words, of course, as we like to discuss words. So I thought I would give you the real words to begin with. So this is from Otherwordly by Yeela Mack and Kelsey Garrity, illustrated by Kelsey Garrity Riley. So these are words that are not necessarily everyday and in sometimes languages other than English, but they're really interesting. So do you know what a nemophilist is?
Well, the first thing that pops into my mind is a feisty Nemo, which that lady could have used on her side the other day at the end of the street.
Well, we're still on the fish side, aren't we? Yeah. But no, Nemophilist. So yeah, Finding Nemo. But it is in fact an English noun, and it is a haunter of the woods, one who loves the forest and its beauty and solitude.
Oh, okay. One of those
yes,
things
I
not
reckon
like
I'm
the
a bit
other.
of an Yeah, I reckon I'm a bit of a nemophilus because I do love the, we wouldn't call them the woods here, we'd call them the forest or the bush here in Australia. But, there is something about going out into the bush and stepping on the moist soil up there on, Mount Macedon on Gabor and just going, oh, thank goodness.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I wouldn't describe your adventures out there and beautiful moments with nature as haunting it, though. So, because I was thinking of the Headless Horseman.
Oh, no, but, as a haunter of the woods, I haunt the woods. So, no, Headless Horseman. So you automatically went to the horror side.
I don't know. They had the word haunting, not me.
All right, here's another one for you. Also English. And also to do with trees, but have you heard of scytherism? I'm going to spell that because I probably pronounced it incorrectly. Psithurism. Scytherism.
No, I'm not even going to hazard a guess.
No. It's the sound of the wind through the trees.
Oh, okay.
So rather than sighing, which is always a bit difficult to spell, it's, the Sough, sighing through the trees. Scytherism is the sound of wind through the trees. Probably not one that I would use much as perhaps a nemophilus, but, I'm going to go Silas anyway. All right, now I've got an Icelandic noun for you, and I am most definitely going to pronounce this incorrectly because some of the alphabet in Icelandic is a little different. So, Radljost, Radljo with an acute accent, ST. I love this one though. Have you heard of a radljost, a noun in Icelandic?
No. Starting to think of vodka now, Icelandic vodka, but no.
This is enough light to find your way by.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. And I guess the, radljost, radiology, radioisotopes, whatever. Anyway, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, enough light to find your way by. So those are beautiful actual words, and I've got 3 little unactual words which were made up by the lovely John Koenig in the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. And I thought that given that we've had a little bit of a break, I'm flicking the book here, so sorry about the sound, that I would go to the section which is boats against the current. So it was kind of, I guess, there's that fish, that sea thing again, isn't it?
It is.
All right. Cater is a noun, a random image from your distant past that leaps back into your attention. That doesn't mean much of anything, but is somehow able to keep you fighting against the current, swimming back and forth in your mind, still developing. So it's after a species of salmon, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the salmon's name, but they run upstream to spawn every year, leaping back to the place they were born. They're not worth much commercially, but the Keaters don't know that. When we look back on our lives, it's not just the moments that we remember, not the grand gestures and the catered ceremonies or the world we capture poised and smiling in photos. It's the little things, the minutes, the cheap raw material of ordinary time. There you go, cater. An image from your distant past, yeah.
Yes, I've got many images from my distance past that definitely gets the mind racing at 2-3 in the morning. Some of them that seem innocuous and yet leave me red-faced even there in the dark.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I'm listening to Ready Player One at the moment, and of course a lot of what they talk about was the stuff in the 80s and, games in the 80s and pop culture and that kind of thing. And lots of those have been flickering back and forth in my mind as I've started reading. So there you go. Cater, I can say that's cater. Word number 2 is enterhood. So this is the set of living people who've known you all your life, all the way back to your infancy. Before you had a clue who you were, a group that slowly shrinks as you get older, until the point when all of your closest confidants have only ever seen an abridged version of you, having joined your story somewhere in the middle of things, just as you did. From enter, entire, and hood. I quite like that idea.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, enterhood. People have known you all your life. Because it is, and I like the thought of being an abridged version, people that you meet later on. Okay, the final word of John Koenig's is an adjective, pithed, P-I-T-H-E-R-E-D, pithed, yeah, pither, which is to dig lightly, pronounced pithed. Okay, it's frustrated that you can't force yourself to remember something, even though it's right on the tip of your tongue. wishing you could simply rifle through your own files directly rather than having to toss random scraps to your team of mental archivists who evidently need hours to sift through the pile before they come up with an answer, just as you're falling asleep.
That probably hits a little bit too close to home these last couple of weeks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, due to a lack of sleep, yes. Definitely need the filing cabinets working at a higher rate.
Yes, those mental archivists, they need to get busy and, perhaps put in the Dewey Decimal System or, something to, get themselves organised to organise your thoughts. So there you are, 6 lovely words to add to your vocabulary. See, I can't even say the word. To add to your vocabulary.
Yes.
And try and use at least one of them in a sentence in the next couple of days.
Well, I'm not going to try right now, but I can say that I definitely agree that it's a cool thing to remember the sound of the 80s arcade or something coming back. But so I definitely miss that, but I don't miss the Dewey Decimal System from the 80s.
Oh, really?
No.
There you go.
But actually, what I might do is very impromptu because we're live. So I recently had to get away for a little bit, and in a second-hand shop on the central coast of New South Wales, there in the lovely The Entrance. So shout out to New South Wales there. Speaking, because you just mentioned arcade and those distant memories, I found a tiny little mini version of Gallagher. Now, I do obviously have the big proper Gallagher machine, but I have this little one. And the reason why I grabbed it is because the sounds are authentic. The graphics are ridiculous, but the sounds are authentic. So, without further ado, I'm just going to reach behind me and get it. So in a first for the Australian book lovers, going with words and talk about distant memories, I'm going to turn it on and see if anybody remembers these wonderful sounds. Yes, there we go. But Gallagher, arcade games aside, would you like to know a little bit about the year 1999 in Australia?
Tell me more.
Actually, I was surprised. It's got a little bit of interesting stuff. I know that I was guilty of declaring the 90s a little bit boring, except for, of course, all the fun I had in my heavy metal days. Okay, well, for the very first time in 1999, high school graduates in New South Wales were able to find out their results on the internet. So, in the future we go. Now, here's something that seems funny now in our days of Netflix and everything, and yet still plays a big part, some would say even a big part in our elections. But media mogul Kerry Packer publicly endorses views, back in 1999 of course, that the federal government should deregulate the media and abolish cross-media ownership rules which stop Packer from taking over the Fairfax newspaper group, as well as calling for foreign ownership restrictions to be lifted. Well, as a... I don't know how many fans of the Murdoch group are out there, but we'll, funny how we're looking back at that one. A massive hailstorm hit Sydney. Most of the damage apparently was centred on the eastern suburbs. Now, the reason why I bring that up, of course, there's lots of massive hailstorms. At the time, it was the second most costliest natural disaster in Australian history, causing 1.7 billion, with a B for Bravo, in insured damages. So, woohoo! A little closer to home here in Adelaide, not the best event, however. 8 decaying bodies were found in barrels in a disused bank vault north of Adelaide, marking the beginning of the Snowtown murders case, which were Australia's worst ever serial killings. More bodies were found underneath a house in Adelaide on the 26th of May. So, yes, pretty horrific, and that goes without saying. Just as horrific, I don't know what's worse, the Snowtown murders or the fact that the GST bill was passed through the Senate on the 28th of June with the help of most of the Australian Democrats in exchange for exemptions on fresh food. So, crikey, so at some point they wanted to even class fresh food under the GST.
They did.
Yeah, so again, no comment. The murders and the GST both belong in that same paragraph, so I might just backspace that so there's no indentation. Now, the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions decided to drop 28 fraud charges against former Senator Mal Colston after receiving not one, but 2 medical specialist reports, which both stated that Mr. Colston was too ill to face trial, either then or in the future. Now, of course, the decision drew criticism from the federal opposition for its timing due to the fact that Mr Coulson was well enough for vote in favour of the Telstra sale just the week before. I love those little government stories. They just do it right in front of you, don't they? They set fire to the bin, run away and say, I didn't do it. Okay, on the 18th of August, the Supreme Court of Queensland ruled that One Nation was improperly registered at the 1998 Queensland state election because it did not have the 500 members needed to register as a political party, and the court also found that the registration was obtained by fraud and deception. Well, didn't stop that anytime.
Sadly, no. I think this is not a particularly good year. Could you move on to something good, please, Darren?
Well, this one is very interesting given the current climate that we are in. In 1999, the Reserve Bank announced an interest rate increase of 0.25%. Now, that doesn't sound like news in itself. However, it was the first increase since 1994.
Yeah.
So that's 5 years of nothing, and I think we've had how many in the last 12 months? Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Far too many.
Now, I guess it doesn't get much better, and this is, again, a really unique little tidbit of trivia for 1999 based on what we've just gone through. Now, a referendum was held to help determine whether Australia should become a republic and whether a preamble is to be inserted into the Constitution, recognising the Aborigines as Australia's first people. The vote no to be a republic scored 54%, and basically on the preamble question, the vote no scored 60%. So while we acted surprised, I guess if I had known that, then it doesn't come as so much of a surprise, but nonetheless. On a literary note, Murray Bale's novel Eucalyptus won the Miles Franklin Award. And as if things couldn't get any sadder, really, considering some of those news events, on the 27th of November 1999, the last ever episode of Hey Hey It's Saturday went to air. But of course, on a brighter note, very quickly, there were the year 1999 in Australia and possibly worldwide, well around the world, was quite a unique year because of Y2K and the fear that the ticking over of the clocks would cause airplanes to fall out of the sky, computers to crash, hospital systems to break, all of those things. So, and I believe, we were going to be, Australia, I think, was pretty close to maybe, one of the first countries to celebrate New Year's. So that'd be, at the time I was living on the Gold Coast, so I was living in Palm Beach, and so I was celebrating on the beach at the time, and of course over down south, just over the border of New South Wales, in Kirra Beach and Coolangatta, they were at an hour forward. So at 11 o'clock my time on Palm Beach, just 2 k's down the road in New South Wales, of course it turned midnight. So I was waiting to see if all of Coolangatta and Kirra, all the lights were going to go out and everything was going to happen. And of course it didn't happen, and then I knew that it was happy days. So, I got pretty drunk that night because after all I was celebrating 2 New Year's Eve, one over one border and one over the other, and celebrating not the demise of the end of the world. But that is a little bit of 1999 in Australia, or should I say that was a little bit of Australia in 1999.
Indeed. And I was on that New Year at, I'll just say, a major hospital in Victoria, in Melbourne. I was, the director at the time, and all of my senior staff plus extra staff were on in case the deadly, dreaded Y2K bug struck our systems and we had people in surgery and all sorts of things. We prepared for Armageddon, really, and while it was great, it certainly upgraded a lot of computer systems. Yeah, it was.
Well, for people that weren't around at that time that might be listening to the podcast or may have been younger, it was a legitimate concern because it was a legitimate possible error inbuilt in the computer. Basically, it all came down to the clocks inbuilt into the PC boards.
Yes, that they'd only added, not enough decimal places. So when it went 2000,000, they thought the whole thing would just fall over. Anyway, enough about that. I've got some really good news.
Well, shall we jump to the news then?
Let's bring it on.
Yeah, because if it's really good news, then I think we should start off a new segment with it, because that one was a little bit dark. Well, let's go to some news.
News. 2 items of news which are really exciting. The first one being that we have 2 new subscribers for the podcast. So thank you so much to Naomi Shippen, who is one of our favourite reviewers, authors and guests on the podcast, but she is supporting the Australian Book Lovers podcast. So thank you, Naomi. You are keeping the lights on, which is brilliant. And also John and Kate. So that's an Oz-USA alliance.
Oh.
And so they have subscribed for us. So thank you so much, John and Kate, for subscribing.
Thank you, John and Kate. Absolutely legendary. Yep. I'll pretend to like Gridiron now.
So that is fantastic. So if you would like to subscribe, and you can do from as little as $3 a month, you can cancel anytime, but we really appreciate it because it helps us pay for putting the podcast on. And if one day we get lots of money, which I find might be slim, we'll certainly just be putting that back to give it to prizes for people who are reading. So 2 new subscribers is great news. Tasmania has become a city of literature, which a UNESCO City of Literature, which is fantastic.
Oh.
So Melbourne was the only one, but now Hobart is in as well. So congratulations to everybody down there. So Nibeluna is the name of the country where the city of Hobart sits, and they have become UNESCO City of Literature. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, huge congratulations.
So down in Palawa country. Yep, it's great. So Melbourne, lift your game, and let's see if we can, keep ourselves chugging along there.
So
what have you got for us, Darren?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of literature and City of Arts and all that sort of stuff, and those fantastic supporters of the podcast, but it got me thinking, how there's talk about, I don't know if it's true or not, but a lot of the art world is really money laundering. Hence why, that squiggle on a piece of paper is suddenly worth $300 million. But for any politicians out there, if you've got a little bit of extra money that you're kind of sweating bullets about trying to explain where it came from, maybe there's some sort of, you can insure the money and then become a silent partner in ABL, throw all that money here, we'll give you back a percentage, then we'll disappear, then you can claim insurance, get all your money back, plus you've made money, and everybody's a winner. And we'll call you a different name, we'll give you a pseudonym for when we say thank you on the podcast for that 1.2 million subscription.
Wouldn't that be lovely? But, perhaps we'll have to look at Creative Australia. We're waiting for that's the new, policy that's putting more funding into the arts. So what we can do, Darren. But, I don't think the money laundering is going to win us any friends.
Well, maybe I didn't word it right. I'll look into it further before the next episode, and I'll get a better prospectus for them, better opportunity, and I'll spell it out a bit easier so it's a no-brainer, no lose. But as far as news for episode 99, and so a quick bit of news from myself. Obviously, we've had a bit of a pause in proceedings when it came to the episodes. I did have a bit of an injury that wasn't too pleasant. Well, it's not the end of the world, that's for sure, but it was just enough to just throw a spanner in things and caused me to become a grumpy bear for these last several weeks while I was trying to get things sorted out. But that is almost on the mend, so that's really good. So very happy to be back in the seat doing episode 99. Looking forward to racing through over the next week or two and catching up and bringing lots of really cool interviews and authors to you all. And so so again, thank you to everybody for all your continued support of the podcast. That's really fantastic.
And lots of good wishes, and thanks to everybody. Darren didn't always see the good wishes, but I passed along a few. But yes, thank you to all the good wishes for Darren's recovery.
It must have been when I was in my oxycodone haze. No, I don't take any of those. But on other little bit, very quick bit of news. I have mentioned previously, obviously, in our short stories on the podcast, there is now the audio feature, so you can click on audio shorts and have a listen. So mine is on there. It's called Photos for the Sea. Probably not as short. It goes for about 42 minutes. It's a bit of a dark tale, but if you want to sit back and be taken away to something a little bit dark, there's that there. But really what I wanted to talk about was we have soft Toys, a short story by Avril Drummond, and narrated, or shall I say, read by none other than Veronica Strachan, is also now under the audio shorts, as well as a crusty one I did called The Church, but you can ignore that one. But no, the Soft Toys is a really, really cool, fun story, and with a wicked little ending, shall we say, or yes, absolutely. And now it's really easy. You can just go to short stories, so obviously AustralianBookLovers.com, short stories, click on audio shorts, and then you've got a couple options. You can just hit play and listen to it, or you can actually download. Now it does say single, download the single, just the player we're using, but you can download it if you wanted to, pop it on a USB or a computer, or listen to it for later, or just keep it for a rainy day. So there we go. Yep. That is my little news for 99, and more news to come in 100.
Follow up those authors that you have a listen to, and check out their websites, and think about purchasing some of their longer books. But that's to give you a little taste of people's creativity. Yeah, definitely.
There'll be lots more audio coming shortly. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of short stories on there now, and yeah, you're right, Veronica. It's a great way to just have a sample snack bite of somebody's work. And at the end of every short story that you read by an author, there is the ability to discover more of their works, more about the author. And who knows, you read that short story, captivates you, sends your chill down your spine, or puts a beautiful step in your heart, and then they may have 4, 5, 10 novels that will send you on to, that really cool feeling when you discover a new artist and suddenly they've got a whole library and you're like, here we go.
13 books, great, can't wait, let's get on.
Yeah, definitely. So there we go, that is my news. I'm over and out for news.
Excellent. Time for the Reader's Cafe.
Oh, yes, it's been a while, so let's do it.
Well, we can talk about my reading first up, and as listeners will know, my 2023 reading challenge is on Goodreads, and I put myself down for 125 books because I do love to read and then listen, and I have them on the Kindle and I have paperbacks as well. I'm up to 120 of 125, Whoa. Which is in fact 12 books ahead of schedule, and I'm going to blame doing a fair bit of gardening in the last few sunny days, because I've just had the books, zapping away, chatting in my head, which has been fantastic. And so I'm not going to read all the ones since I last spoke to everybody, but I will read a couple. You just mentioned finding somebody with a back catalogue. Well, I've just discovered that Tara Moss, who writes crime and thrillers, has she's an Australian-Canadian author, has quite a library of audiobooks, so that's fantastic. I've just started reading her Mercady Vanderwall series, which is excellent. I've just done number 3, and damn it, but somebody borrowed number 4, so I've had to switch over to somebody else. I've read Ray Cairns, who's another Australian thriller writer, so The Good Mother and Dying to Know. And really delighted to say that I had the opportunity to read an advanced reader copy of the final in the Black Birch series by K.M. Allen, which was just brilliant. Was so much action and so much going on. So that is The Collector. So I've just finished that as well. And thank you to Kate for some little bits and pieces, badges and postcards and bookmarks that came along with in appreciation for reading the book. I did read some Matthew Riley, and now look, it's interesting, and I think it was a little tricky that iStation, which is one of his more famous ones, I think, Shane Schofield, and one of my favourite narrators, but there's one particular chapter where I think within a quite a short chapter, he may have written hovercraft about 995 times. So the poor narrator, what was his editor thinking? But because it just was it got to be a little bit hilarious. So anybody who's read Ice Station, you'll know the chapter that I mean. But, you know, still, it was quite a good story.
But that's the type of author he is, though, isn't it? I've read a little bit, and you just straight in. It's like, you know, the rock fell, this happened, that happened.
Yeah,
he jumped
just
in the car,
go.
hovercraft, a knife, gun.
Yeah, and, you know, landed on the side of the hovercraft, and then the British hovercraft came here, and then we went to the skirt of the hovercraft, and then the door of the hovercraft, and then the back of the hovercraft. I was like, oh, my Lordy,
how am I going to get off this hovercraft? Then the hovercraft came to a halt.
Exactly, and the orange hovercraft to the plane. Yeah. Anyway, but no. I mean, I enjoyed the story, but that was a bit of a hilarious chapter. Two more I just want to mention. One is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this is the Empyrean, so it's a new fantasy series. And it's there's a war in a college for dragon riders, so it's fantastic. Really like that one. That was a new one, because sometimes you hear these coming with hype and you think yeah maybe, but no, this one was really good. And the other one I read, which was interesting, was 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. 8 perfect murders, 9 strangers who get a really cryptic list with their names on it, and then they all start to die. So that was a bit interesting to listen to as well. So there you go. And I have just been lucky enough to attend a workshop run by Ween Thunga, who are an Indigenous group who help Victorian health and community organisations with the sort of inclusivity around Indigenous culture. And they recommended Amberlyn Quayamulina's Living on Stolen Land, which is a really short, thin little book, but which has some absolutely beautiful prose in it. So I'm currently reading that and nearly finished. I just did want to mention that one, so thank you. Living on Stolen Land. Borrowed that from the fabulous Goldfields Library Corporation. We love our libraries. There you go. That's my update on my reading.
Excellent, but you never well, before I do some spotlights on some super duper cool books that have been updated on the website, you never told me where your cafe is, where you're having a coffee today.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the coffee. Well, I'd have to say outside, because it is a beautiful day. I'm going to say outside, very similar to just outside my back door, where as long as the chickens don't come up and try and get on the table while I'm having a little quiet sit, and the wooden chairs, a little bit uncomfortable, but enough to keep you awake and alert to have a chat, have your cuppa, and move on. What about you? Where are you sitting?
Well, being that I'm in a somewhat cheeky mood as my energy level's starting to come back, and being that the lady here on our dear beautiful Port Noarlunga who had her face bitten is okay, my cafe is in the underwater theme park from Jaws 3, which was in 3D, of course. And so I can see all the sharks swimming across, and I'm just sitting back, and I'm having a tequila sunrise, because you get a bit of splash of grenadine on the top on that one, a bit of red to sink down. So, but yeah, there we go. But anyway, that's my cheeky part over. I have to joke about the sharks here, because I've got to be in that water very shortly.
Yeah.
Let me please, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some amazing new titles on the website, and I'm just going to have to catch up over these next couple of episodes, but hopefully I can just spotlight a couple for you today and cover a couple of different genres. So first I'm going to step in the fantasy genre. Now this is a little bit of a different fantasy couple of books here to start with, because it is by our super cool author Kevin Klehr, who's been an amazing guest several times on the show and co-host for some episodes. And this is part of his Drama Queen series. So first I'd like to spotlight Drama Queens and Devilish Schemes. So Adam is dead, but that's not his only problem. His husband, Wade...
Isn't that just the most classic line? Yeah. I just love that.
It's got you straight away, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, his husband, Wade, is still alive and sleeping with losers. There's another line that, just grabs you. Now, his guardian angel, Guy, has grown fond of the liquor cabinet, and Adam suspects his demise was the result of foul play. Meanwhile, in the depths of the afterlife, the devil forces Adam to put on a play for the sinners. If he fails to entertain them, Guy's parents will spend eternity in the underworld. As he gambles with the freedom of the damned angels, Adam comes to terms with infidelity, friendship, and the reason why he was the victim of a double murder. And that is Drama Queens and Devilish Schemes by Kevin Klehr, that you'll find under our fantasy genre. Now, if that one perked your fancy and you have read the first couple or are going to embark on the first couple, the next one is Drama Queens and Adult Themes. So Adam's about to discover how much drama a midlife crisis can be. He's obsessed with Mannix, the nude model in his art class. But Adam has been married to Wade for nearly 2 decades and they don't have an open relationship. Little do they know that Fabian, a warlock from the afterlife, has secretly cast a spell of lust on Adam and his potential toy boy. As things begin to heat up, Adam's guardian angel, Guy, steps in. But what's the best way to save the relationship? Should Guy subdue Adam's wandering passions or instigate a steamy threesome? So definitely would probably put that almost under a little bit of romance too, but that definitely has the fantasy themes there, and that is Drama Queens and Adult Themes.
Excellent.
Now, staying with fantasy and taking quite a bit of a turn, we are going into a book called Into the Other by Livian Gray. Faced with imprisonment for murder, a young woman named Josie encounters a strange and malignant man known as Calder, who offers her a way out at a high price. She must give him her firstborn baby. Agreeing under duress, Josie later attempts to renege on the deal, but Calder eventually returns to take what he claims is rightfully his. Josie moves on, struggling to come to terms with Calder's machinations. Meanwhile, her child is raised by Calder on the boundary to another realm known as the Other, a beautiful but deadly place for those who are not from there. A twist of fate has Josie believing she may have bested Calder at last. However, he refuses to let her have her way when he returns to present her with a newer, more harrowing choice. Dun dun dun! Yes. So that is Into the Other by author Livian Gray that you'll find under our fantasy. Yes, nothing better than turning the screws and having one harrowing choice and then finding out you've got an even more harrowing choice to make just when you think you've outsmarted somebody. So, yeah. Indeed. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, from author T.S. Simons, who has a number of books on our sci-fi genres, we have 2 books that I'd like to spotlight under our science fiction genre. Now, these are part of the Latitude series. So, the first book I'm going to talk about is The 45th Parallel, which is the Latitude series book 1. And once again, that is by the stupendously fantastic author T.S. Simons. So, would you abandon your destiny? Growing up on Lewis, Caitlin and Seraphine's lives are ordered and calculated. Immune children, they were created by the previous regime for the sole purpose of ensuring the survival of the human race. A virus has decimated the planet, and their destiny weighs heavily. With only a few surviving communities left on Earth, their role in resettling the world is critical. But what if you reject the purpose your existence is designed to address? The 45th Parallel begins the Latitude series and has been rated a reader's favourite 5-star read and sci-fi award finalist. So there you go, you can't get better accolades than that for a book 1. Book 2 in the Latitude series is called Orenda. Now, what do you value above all else? Orenda is a First Nations Iroquois belief that all natural objects and people possess a mystical energy. It is the force that allows us to affect change in the world and manifest transformation. In this gripping sequel to the 45th Parallel, Caitlin and her husband, Geo, travel to Canada to take on new roles as ambassadors for the ACC. Inclusive, intelligent and aware, Caitlin proves herself a natural leader. Respected by her people, she endeavours to bridge the gap between the communities, offering them new opportunities that will benefit generations to come. But as Caitlin and Geo build their new family, an old enemy resurfaces, threatening their newfound security. Loyalties are challenged, betrayal leads to unspeakable tragedy, and the ultimate act of revenge forces Caitlin to draw on her Orenda before it threatens to destroy them both. And that is Orenda, Latitude Series Book 2 by T.S. Simons.
Which is fantastic. Now, because we've had another series by T.S. Simons.
That's right.
Which, yes, and it has been renamed because she picked up a publisher for it, a US publisher. So the Antipodes series, which was T.S. Simons' earlier series, and started with Antipodes and the liminal space, is now called Project Hemisphere, the space between infinity, which is formerly the Ouroboros, which is the infinity snake eating itself, Circle of Protection, and Ses Rumnia. So she still likes those really different words to describe different things. So are great. So they've got new covers and new blurbs on the site. So have a look. And the Latitude series is her latest. So thank you to Tanya. Brilliant.
Well, let's not depart sci-fi just yet, because we have shall I say, a scorching title by the spectacular author Melissa Ferguson, and that is the book Star-scorched Fingertips. A carnivorous vine on a planet infected with a human exodus cult forges psychic connections with Earth and bestows an unsuspecting group of women with the power to heal or destroy the remnants of humanity. Now, Star-scorched Fingertips is an ultimately hopeful ecopunk adult science fantasy that explores the future of humanity and our obligations to our planet of origin. So if Annihilation and Day of the Triffid met up with The Handmaid's Tale to traverse space while tripping on mushrooms, Star-scorched Fingertips would be their queer, rebellious love child. There we go, and that is.
Love it.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I'm not going.
I'm going to be honest. I've already purchased that one, so you know. It's there waiting in my to-be-read pile. Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. What a brilliant story.
I was going to be honest, but I better not be honest, because I can't tell you my mushroom story that happened a couple of weeks ago. And that was a kind of an accident.
Right.
Yeah, accidentally fall into... No. So that is Star-scorched Fingertips by Melissa Ferguson, and Under Our Size 5. A quick little U-turn to go in a completely different direction. Quick little stop to finish up the spotlights on all these really cool titles. So thank you to all the authors for listing their books on the Australian Book Lovers podcast, on the Australian Book Lovers website. But of course, we can't go past a new release by one of our favourite authors, Sandy Barker, who features under our romance genre with her brand new title, Match Me If You Can. So Poppy Dean lives and breathes romance, in her job at least. As a matchmaker and an elite London agency, she spends her days finding the perfect Mr. Right for pretty much everybody but herself. When Tristan Fellows walks into the agency, Poppy knows she's in for a challenge. A typical bachelor, Tristan has no intention of falling in love, but in order to receive his £30 million inheritance, he must find himself a wife before his 35th birthday. This may be Poppy's hardest case yet, but even the most arrogant of men can sometimes warm a woman's heart. And who knows, maybe it's finally time for Poppy to find her happy ever after too. From the sunny skies of Greece to the trendy streets of London to the romantic hills of Scotland, Match Me If You Can is a laugh out loud, enemies to lovers romance, guaranteed to make you believe in love again. That is Match Me If You Can by the romance professor, Sandy Barker. And that,
the romance professor, I like that. I think Sandy will enjoy that as well.
And that is that's a bit of a spotlight on some of the fantastic titles that have been listed on the website, and plenty, as I mentioned, we're going to catch up on a few, so stay tuned. But otherwise, there we go. I would love to know now about the guest, because that's what the show's all about. Your fantastic interview that you had, and what it was all about.
So, delighted to have a fabulous chat with David Cohen. Now, David has these brilliant books. We talk about The Terrible Event, which is his latest one, but he also has a novel called Fear of Tennis and Disappearing Off the Face of the Earth, as well as a whole lot of short stories. So I think without any more chat, let's launch into my meeting with David Cohen. Welcome, book lovers. Delighted to say we have with us from the far north of Australia only, the fabulous author David Cohen. Welcome, David.
Thank you, Veronica.
David, where are you today? On whose traditional lands are you on?
It's the Turrbal people, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's in New Farm, Brisbane.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I'm down here on the much chillier Wurundjeri country, down near the Macedon Ranges in Victoria. So it's fantastic that we have Zoom and all these things. You know, would be much more difficult to interview all the brilliant authors that we have from all around Australia if we had to all come to the Macedon Range. As much as we have, you know, good coffee and food down here, it would make it much trickier. We've all got fairly comfortable, I think, with technology.
Yes. I think we have over the past few years.
Yeah. All right, but we're here to talk about books and writing. And while we've had a lot of terrible events, your book, The Terrible Event, I absolutely love the cover. I've got to say, as a project and change manager, and anybody who likes stationery, The Terrible Event cover is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty eye-catching, I'll say that.
It is. It's absolutely spot on. So for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's like one of those little orange and yellow tags that you get asked to sign here or note this or do whatever. But yes, The Terrible Event is fantastic. So I'm going to start with a little bit about David. He's the author of the novels Fear of Tennis and Disappearing Off the Face of the Earth, and the short story collection The Hunter and Other Stories of Men, which won the 2019 Russell Prize for Humour Writing. His stories have appeared in Australian Book Review, The Big Issue, Griffith Review, Meanjin, Overland and elsewhere, and he lives in, as we've just said, up in Brisbane, Australia. Now, when I look at your website though, 1999 was your first short story that won a prize, but how long have you been writing before that?
Well, I've been writing, ever since I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
As far as publishing, I think from memory, the first thing I had published was probably, just trying to remember now, might have been the early 90s or something like that. I remember I had a poem published in some kind of magazine, but after that I was focused on writing short stories. So I think it was around 1990 perhaps I had the first short story published. So in a reputable, not just in your own notebook or
that's right, those kind of things. Yeah, David, in that time you will have seen some changes in, even if we just stick to short story writing. What have you seen that you think has, I guess, improved short story writing and publishing for the better?
There's certainly, it's sort of gone up and down a bit, but I think there seems to be now, I feel, a lot of interest in short stories. Even though I guess a lot of the more kind of mainstream publishers are still not publishing a lot of short fiction. There's a lot of smaller independent publishers around. I mean, like Transit Lounge, who've published my collection. They've published quite a few short story collections, and there's now something called the Australian Short Story Festival, which I think began a few years back, which where short story writers from all around Australia and internationally can come together and discuss the short story form. I think when I started out though, there seemed to be more journals, magazines around publishing short stories. I guess a lot of those have since maybe disappeared, but now there are a lot more online publications available. So it seems to me that there's, despite everyone, the kind of general belief that people aren't interested in short stories and they don't want to read short stories collections. It seems to be, there's a lot around, and from what I can see, there is quite a lot of interest in them.
They're not really going away, are they? And I think I've read. I remember reading in Stephen King's book on writing that he recommends the short story to hone your craft. Well, I suspect over several decades that you've been honing your craft, there are, some things that you've learned about putting short stories together.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I started writing short stories, I guess like most people, I was very influenced by other short story writers that I was reading at the time. So I think they were probably quite derivative. So it takes a while, I guess, to start to develop your own your own style or your own voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've learnt that a short story is not just a short a short version of a novel or something like that. It's very much a separate form. So you've got to be much more. I think I've learnt just to be much more economical and not try and. It's more about what you leave out a lot of the time rather than what you put in.
Absolutely. We've been chatting with a lot of authors from the Wilderness Society's children's literature shortlist, and as you can imagine, in a picture book, if you've only got 12 pages and you've only got a few words, or as they have to fit into a thought bubble, every word is precious. And I think that's what I enjoy about reading short stories, is that the ability to put a world or a snippet of time or an event into just a few hundred or thousand words is it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I always admire writers who can write those really compressed stories, maybe just a couple of pages, or when I read Peter Carey's short story, I think it's called the Rose or the Black Rose or something like that. But it's only around 500 words, and I thought it's just and yet the subject matter is it deals with a major historical kind of event, I suppose, and yet it's much more powerful sometimes to read a very short story like that than to read a whole book, with all the details.
Yes,
it's just really kind of compressed into a short space. It's going to be much more powerful, I think.
Yeah. When did you admit that you were a writer?
Well, I don't know if I've ever, formally come out and admitted it. But I think, I guess I've always sort of seen myself as a writer, even though I might not necessarily have been recognised as one by anyone else. Just because I've always written, despite what all the other things that I've done, and I've never been a kind of a full-time writer or anything like that. I suppose certainly when I was, I guess when I published my first story, I thought, well, that's some kind of official recognition that I can act, that I've written something that's considered good enough to be put in print and distributed among people beyond my immediate family circle.
Right.
Yeah,
you were out of the starting blocks.
Yeah. But I still I still feel somewhat a certain reluctance, I guess, to go around saying I'm a writer, and I don't know if that's just because of in Australia. I don't know if as opposed to perhaps certain other places, the respect afforded to writers is that high. A lot of people, if I say I'm a writer, or I write fiction or whatever, it's often. Well, sometimes that is met with a kind of a blank stare, kind of an uncomprehending stare, or or what genre do you write? And I'm sort of struggle to come up with an answer. But yes, it's sometimes I just keep it to myself that I'm a writer, depending on who I happen to be talking with.
Yes, that's right. If you're in a group of writers, it's almost a relief to go, oh yeah, hello, I'm a writer. Yeah, me too.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it's like some kind of support group where you
come
out and confess that you're a writer.
Yeah, because there is not a great many writers in Australia who can be supported fully by their writing. Even those who we might see their books at the airport, many of them still have other jobs or do children's classes at school, or teach this or that or the other. So it's a little difficult in Australia to be saying that's what you are.
Yes, because I guess we often equate, what you do with, how you make a living.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very Australian thing to do, isn't it? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do? So if and yeah, as you say, not many people can make a living exclusively from writing. Yes, you tend to. There's a certain cringe factor, I guess, about saying that you are a writer. Well, you usually say, well, I do this, but I also write.
Yes,
I do this to pay the rent.
To pay the rent.
I write, yeah,
that's right. You write to keep your creative soul alive. Yeah. All right. Now, often the books you read as a child are a great influence. So, tell us your favourite childhood book.
Well, the one that I guess the one that springs to mind is an Enid Blyton book called The Adventures of Binkle and Flip. That was a book about these two rabbits who get to all sorts of mischief. I can't remember exactly what age I was, but I've just been started reading that to my own son, who's 5, and he loves it too, which is it's funny because it's sort of really is from another age, and a lot of the things that a lot of the content now you couldn't really write a lot of the stuff or talk about some of that stuff that is in there.
Yes.
So you've kind of got to. I find myself explaining that this is written a long time ago, and some of the I guess some of the values or sentiments expressed there are no longer really applicable. But it's great. I always loved it. I read it over and over, or I had it read to me, and I thought it was very funny, and so I liked a lot of Enid Blyton books.
She did write a huge amount. She had a great library. The Folk of the Faraway Tree, of course, was one of my faves, and I love The Secret Seven and The Famous Five, and all of those, ridiculous English adventures that they used to do on their school holidays. I mean, where were the parents in all of this, really? You wonder.
Yeah, they were very much in the background. Didn't get much of a mention. Yeah.
No, they did not. But it's children's adventures, isn't it? Which is important that they get to see that whatever the four walls of their own house or their own garden are not the end of the world, and there's other things out there.
Yep. Yeah.
From inspirations as a child to inspirations for this book, let's talk about The Terrible Event. But while you're thinking about your inspiration, I'm going to tell people what the blurb is. And here we go. A public memorial's name is changed to avoid any mention of the tragedy it has been set up to commemorate. 2 attention-seeking activists campaign against exclusionary policies adopted by the gift shop at a suburban shopping mall. A customer service representative becomes obsessed with a colleague who has worked from home for so long nobody in the company remembers her. A middle-aged father loses his marriage and falls in love again with a cherished but damaged childhood toy. An academic's research into roadside memorials takes a peculiar turn. So David Cohen's sometimes bizarre yet pitch-perfect stories capture everyday horrors but are always shot through with a profound empathy and generosity. The Terrible Event delivers not just one terrible event, but many events of varying degrees of terribleness. Death, destruction, disappearance, decline, defeat. It has something for everyone. I love the woman that nobody remembers anymore because she's worked from home for so long.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of topical.
Well, that's right. Yes. I guess it is. I mean, I guess the whole... Yeah, as far as many workplaces go, that the whole
resonates with a lot.
Changed.
Yeah, for sure. So, David, what inspired you to write? And look, each story, obviously has a different thread. But what inspired you to put these stories in together?
I think, as with my previous collection, although that was written over, those stories are written over a much longer period of time. These are written over, I guess, a few years. So it is, I hope, a bit more cohesive as far as a thread linking the stories goes. But I think, I had a number of stories, and I guess it was a matter of, it's not that I didn't really think as I was writing them that, there's going to be a collection of stories about terrible events as such. It was just, you know, when you put together a short story collection and you're looking for some way to pitch it, I guess, some kind of overarching theme or whatever for the stories, which I think makes it look a bit more attractive to a publisher and probably to potential readers, is, you know, rather than just a bunch of random stories, it's good to have something that links them. So I think as I was looking through them, I mean, I had the first story in the collection is called The Terrible Event. So I guess it struck me that the other stories that I've included are also in one way or another dealing with terrible events, whether they be, you know, directly kind of obvious terrible events or more indirect or, you know, metaphorically terrible or whatever. I just thought that was a good sort of hook to you know, hang the stories on, just a kind of interesting and hopefully arresting phrase. You know, so yeah, so, you know, you might read them and not immediately think there's a terrible event, an apparent terrible event, but that is basically the thread. And there are some kind of recurring ideas and images in the stories, but certainly they can, each one can be read independently. You know, there were others I had, but I kind of I ditched them because they didn't really fit in with this general theme. Yeah, so I suppose it came really from the first story, The Terrible Event. I tried to kind of fit the others around that idea.
You said it took a few years to put these together, so there is, a couple of years of work and effort goes into gathering those stories?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one I might have written around, it was actually probably around 2018 or something like that. That was one of the other stories in the collection. So I guess between then and whenever I submitted this collection to Transit Lounge Publishing, which is probably a couple of years ago now, I guess. Yeah, so it's probably, you know, a few years. I was probably, you know, I didn't have a lot of time in which to write. So short stories, I think, probably good in that regard. If you're trying to write a novel or something longer, it's you want to it's hard to kind of keep up that continuity when you've only got bits and pieces of time to work in. So yeah, I thought, yes, I think had I been trying to write something else, it would have been a bit more difficult. So, but yeah, it takes. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't kind of quantify how long it takes to write a story, because often, you know, you start writing something, you write a few lines, and or you write down an idea, and then it might not be for, you know, months or even years later that you come back to it, and it's kind of ready to. You feel that you can finish it.
Tell me, in terms of editing, so I guess, you know, editorial support in this case from Transit Lounge, how does the editing differ? Because I know you've written a couple of novels as well. How does the editing differ for short stories to novels? Is that more difficult? Do you think there's less help, more help, or are there particular editors who are very good at helping you, you know, slice and dice what needs to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same. The editor for this one was Kate Goldsworthy, who I think has, you know, has extensive experience across various genres of writing, and you know, novels, short stories, and other things. So, you know, I think really it's probably not that different from editing a short story collection to a novel, but I suppose it is, in the sense that with each story you've got to kind of you know, you don't have that sense of continuity, I guess, from the start. So you've got to enter into a new kind of fictional world or landscape, and, you know, that the style might change, or the voice or whatever. So I guess there are those considerations. You have to kind of treat each story on its own merits. But really, it's not. I wouldn't say there are radical shifts of voice or style from one story to the next in this collection. So I think I think the editing. I mean, and the other thing is, Kate was very. I think she's sort of focused more on, I guess, on the mechanics. She didn't really sort of say, you've got to, rewrite this anything extensively. In the previous collection it was a different editor, and she was a bit more probably focused a bit more on certain stories where she thought, you've got to rewrite this whole ending, and things like that, and definitely that certainly improved them. I'm glad she did. I think maybe Kate was a bit more hands off in that regard, but certainly yes, the final product after going through that editing process is so much better.
Yes, they are worth their weight in gold, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I think it's good, as long as you have someone who can sort of understand what you're trying to do.
Yes, true.
I mean, it's obviously that's a really difficult. I think that I imagine. I mean, I've done a bit of editing, but certainly not of fiction. But to kind of have a real sense of what it is the writer is trying to do, and often there are times when the editor may kind of miss the point, and but it's definitely a two-way process, and and certainly you have I've certainly been given plenty of room to for back and forth, and to respond to anything or to question anything an edit I didn't think was quite right. I think it's just as far as short stories go, it's I guess it's harder in that respect, and because you're kind of starting anew more or less with each story. Begin again. Your least or most favourite character to write? Can you remember in this selection, in The Terrible Event, or which story and which character? I quite enjoyed, actually the last story in the collection, which is called The Enigma of Keith, and that's got subtitled Another Memorial. So the story the collection is framed by, there's a memorial at the beginning and there's a memorial at the end, but they're both quite different. Right. So that final story is about an academic who's engaged in this research project to do with roadside memorials. I think I quite enjoyed writing that character and having a bit of a swipe, I suppose, at academia and so forth. I mean, I'm not an academic myself, but my wife's an academic, and I work at a university, and so I'm become quite familiar with the ins and outs of academia. But so that was quite a good one. I enjoyed the second story in the collection. It's called Mr. Cheerio. It's about the couple of, as you mentioned in the blurb, about these activists. I quite enjoyed writing those two characters, probably because I hadn't written about characters like that before, so it was interesting to imagine these. I mean, they're quite exaggerated portraits, as probably a lot of the stories that are in a lot of the stories. They're quite they're not exactly deep kind of psychological investigations into character, put it that way. They're more I wouldn't say flat characters, but some of them are quite cartoonish, I guess. And that brings us on to research, because and thank you for giving us some information. We always ask our authors if they can give us a little bit of detail. And one thing we asked is about how much research is involved in your writing. And you mentioned that it doesn't call for a lot necessarily, but tell us about that. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I do a lot. And certainly none of the things I've written are what you call written research heavy. I mean, and again, it depends on the nature of what you're writing, but I find too much research can be potentially damaging, not damaging, or kind of, it can spoil a piece of fiction, I think, if you kind of become too focused on putting all of this getting all this research done and then trying to incorporate it. I like to rely mainly on the imagination. The research is more, for me, is just to get some, just to have some concrete details to give the story a greater sense of I wouldn't say realism, because most of the stories are about, they're fairly outlandish or fanciful or whatever you want to call it, ridiculous things happening. But I think if you are going to write about, you are going to have those sorts of things happening, it's important to get the little concrete details right. I think that makes it work better if it's grounded in some kind of sense of reality. So that last story, The Enigma of Keith, which is possibly the longest story, I guess it's maybe more of a novella. A lot of that is to do with, well, as I say, roadside memorials. So I kind of looked into that a lot. I mean, and actually there is a fair bit of I guess scholarly literature research about that, but also just I read a lot of newspaper articles and sort of government documents and things like that to do with regulations concerning erecting roadside memorials, because I was going to try to write something longer, like a novel, which is all about that subject. I think in the process of reading various scholarly journal articles, I thought it might be more interesting or funnier to write about someone who's actually working on a research project to produce one of those articles. I thought it just sort of went in that direction. So it's more of I think it's something that was more suited to a short story than a whole novel, but just things like that, just to give it that sense of that it is actually grounded in some kind of reality, despite what might happen in the story.
Yeah, I have great admiration for those historical fiction writers who spend hours scanning Trove and all those fairly extensive databases, but I write fantasy and science fiction, so fantasy is a lot easier because you make all of it up, but science fiction, a little bit the same. You have to have the odd thing that makes it almost possible so that you can ground it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly research now is made a lot easier by by the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
All of our encyclopedias would be well and truly thumbed to death, wouldn't they, if we had to rely still on those. David, you have, of course, written novels. So you've written The Fear of Tennis was in 2007 and Disappearing Off the Face of the Earth with Transit Lounge in 2017. Tell us a little bit about why the switch, or was it always The Fear of Tennis? Was that the first one that just said, I'm longer than a short story, don't cut me off, David, I need more time?
Yeah, I think it was, I've been writing short stories, a lot of short stories prior to that, and trying to publish a collection of short stories, which I could never seem to do. And I think, that's partly, as I said, there's not that many publishers willing to consider a short story collection by an unknown writer. And also, I don't think the short stories, they were quite up to the high enough standard, really. At the time I thought they were, but in retrospect,
now looking back, you go, okay. Put that in the paper drawer.
Being a little bit ambitious there, but so I think I thought I've got to write a novel just so I can get something published. I had made many attempts at writing one, and would often abandon those attempts. So that was the first one that I actually finished, and it was again, when I read it now, I cringe at a lot of it, but
I don't know, it sounds good.
It's actually, I submitted it to the Verona Manuscript Development Prize or program way back in whenever it was. It must have been around 2001 or something, and it got into that program. So I got to work with an editor at HarperCollins to polish it up and so on, and then it was considered for publication by that publisher, who ultimately passed on it. But and after that, I must have submitted it to practically every publisher in Australia.
Yes, as you do.
Yeah, and finally the publisher Black Pepper in Melbourne, a very small independent publisher, accepted it, and so that was the first actual book that I'd had published. So I was pretty chuffed. But really, what I really wanted to do all along was publish a short story collection.
Yeah.
But then, so I kept continued writing short stories, but then and ultimately had. And then I had another collection which became The Hunter and Other Stories of Men, but I tried again with various publishers with that one. It had some success with the Dorothy Hewitt Prize, that's UWA Press. It was shortlisted for that, but again, they didn't ultimately select it for publication. So, and then I think, so in the meantime, I started that another novel, which became Disappearing Off the Face of the Earth, and then I submitted that to Transit Lounge, who to my considerable surprise and relief in a way that they agreed to publish that. So I think it was on the strength of having those two, or at least that second one with Transit Lounge, that they were willing to look at a collection
of the short stories.
Yeah.
Do you think that is still where your love lies, in the short stories rather than the novels?
Probably, although I'm now working on another novel. I think, just because I feel that I just would like to write something longer, and to have that, it's just the sense of continuity and when writing, rather than having to just kind of start again every time with a new story. And just because I think, I guess it comes down also to the idea that you have, and whether it's something that is going to be viable for, whether it's going to work in that extended form. I guess most of my ideas are certainly just short story ideas. They're not they're not really ideas that are going to work over the length of a novel. But the thing I'm working on now is more, I believe, could extend to a novel. And I think just perhaps more people are going to read it because if it's a novel, ironically in a way, because our attention spans are shrinking, and yet people who read fiction still prefer novels over short stories.
Yeah, I must admit that I will dip in and out of some short stories, but it also means that I don't always get to the end, like if there's an anthology, and I think, I must get back to those. But as I've just mentioned, being a fantasy and sci-fi writer, I like a nice big brick book that I can really get into.
Yeah, well, that's right, and that's something that that's a definite advantage or pleasure that novels afford that short stories don't, not in the same way. Yeah,
it can often give me a sense of, I really like this writer's voice, I want to read more of them. I remember, I think, with N.K. Jemisin, who's I'm not sure if you know, she is a American fantasy and science fiction author, and I first read a couple of her short stories. I thought, I really like this, and then of course I've gone on to read her whole entire catalogue, being as obsessive as I am. So it's a good thing. It could be an introduction, to have a little read and go, this could be good, and away you go.
Yeah, definitely. There are authors who are really excel in both forms, and
which is not hardly fair, is it really?
No. I mean, I must say, like, for example, Peter Carey, I'd much prefer to read his short fiction than his novels. And there are others, other people whose novels, you end up preferring to their short stuff.
Yeah, very good. All right. what is the theme of this book that you're working on? Can you give us any hints without any spoilers? The one that you're got the draft of?
Well, I guess it's somewhat inspired by the kind of rental, so-called rental crisis. So it's going to be, well, at least partly about someone, a renter. It'll be probably in a similar vein to some of the short stories in this collection, and also disappearing off the face of the earth, which takes place mostly inside a self-storage facility. So this is going to have, I guess, some echoes of that too. But yes, it'll be in a similarly sort of comic vein, I guess you could say. Not this collection is, it's sort of described as being very, very funny and everything, and some people think it's funny, other people don't find it funny at all. So it's kind of tragicomic, perhaps.
Yeah. David, a lot of your books have got this, absurd or weird or all these kind of things in describing them. When you look at people, like if you're people watching, because I know a lot of writers do that, or you're looking at situations, are you saying, I could do something weird to that person?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes, yes, or sometimes, yes, I'll just find myself in a particular situation and just kind of step outside of it and kind of think, this is quite ridiculous, and if you wrote about it, it would be
it would sound so absurd, kind of like Utopia. Like with the having worked in government departments, some of that's just not funny because it's just so tragically true.
Close to the truth. Yeah.
But you're right. If you write about it, people go, "Oh, that could never happen." Yeah. Just watch this space. Yeah. Interesting. So be careful, people, if you're meeting David Cohen, if he's out doing any book signings, just beware. He might put you in an interesting, absurd situation.
Yes.
But at least you're not a thriller writer and you won't murder somebody off. But that's that's another hint there. I suppose you could, because there's all of those things in this book. Many.
Yes, I would. Oh, yes, I will say that none of the characters are really based on anyone
anybody
specifically. But
that's good. Yes, put that at the start of the book. David, are you out and about with your book?
I'm at the moment. I don't have any events, terrible or otherwise, lined up, but I have some other radio interviews, and the book has been getting quite a bit of coverage in the media coverage, I guess. It's, a lot of the various book websites and blogs like yours, and also some of the in the mainstream media, which is good. I hope that continues. But I'd like to say that I am, the only thing I can mention at the moment, it's not until November, is the Australian Short Story Festival that I mentioned earlier. I'll be appearing at that. That's in Adelaide in November, 9th to the 12th, I think.
9th to the 12th. I have to send Darren over there. My co-host is in Adelaide, in Ghana country. So, I'm not sure if he knows about that one yet, so that's good.
Yeah.
We'll have to say thank you to yourself and to Transit Lounge for giving us a copy of The Terrible Event. And it went to one of our book list subscribers. And just give me a minute. I'm just going to find the story that she shared, because I asked if people could, in order to, to get the book, to actually share with me one of their terrible stories. And this was just, well, it was hilarious. But anyway, this is the story. I won't say who it's from, but this is the story that came up in somebody's Facebook memory feed. Today at my skincare consultation makeup session, I was introduced to a new makeup artist. Despite her jet black hair, she was nudging 70 years of age, as she told me, and yet whilst her heavily wrinkled hands and neck confirmed that she was not only nudging it, but probably disnumerate as well, her face was as smooth and shiny as porcelain. Nothing to do with the numerous products she was trying to flog me, though. The surgeon's knife had produced a facelift of such ascendancy, her eyebrows were where one would ordinarily expect her hairline to be, and her brows were augmented by a tattoo artist in a manner which gave her a permanently surprised appearance. Indeed, her whole appearance was permanent, as heavy use of Botox had rendered her face frozen, with the only moving part, in capital letters, the most enormous pair of lips, full of fillers a la Marilyn Manson, which transfixed me as she had coated them liberally with fluoro pink lipstick and gloss, leaving me in mind of a trout on acid. The combined effect made Ronald McDonald look conservatively tame. Needless to say, I spent the entire appointment fearful as to my resulting maquillage, hardly the relaxing and fun time I had expected, LOL. So, obviously, the winner. So how could I go past that, of course? So she got a copy of your book, so there you go.
Excellent.
that was a pretty terrible event.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, indeed it was. On that, David, where can people find the terrible event?
Well, most good bookshops are selling it. Here in Melbourne, I know all the readings bookshops will stock it, and Dimmicks. Where else in Melbourne? Hill of Content and paperback books, but most bookstores, and you can find it online, through the usual online retailers, Amazon and so on, or directly through Transatlantic Publishing. You can purchase it there.
Lovely. Yeah. And where do we find you online? Because you're not a big social media user, but where can we find you if we're looking?
No, I have a website. It's a pretty rudimentary one, though, but it's just David Philip Cohen with 2 L's, Philip with 2 L's, .com. That's has some information about my books and other bits and pieces. So it's a work in progress, but it's there. Yeah.
And any final words for potential readers of The Terrible Event, or any of your other books, of course, because you've got quite a lot of short stories and a couple of novels out there. So what final words do you have for our listeners?
Well, I hope you can get hold of a copy of The Terrible Event, and I hope if you do that you enjoy the stories. And if you enjoy the stories, please take a look at the previous collection called The Hunter, because I think if you like The Terrible Event, you should like The Hunter as well.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much to David Cohen, author of The Terrible Event, a series of stories which cover a whole range of, what do we say, death, destruction, disappearance, decline and defeat. Something for everyone. No, those are excellent. All right. Thanks very much for talking with us, David. Take care.
Thanks, Veronica.
So thank you, David. Lots to think about in that. And I really like his words about the short story form, where what you leave out is as important as what you leave in. And, the Terrible Event being everyday horrors. I think people being able to write horror stories from the everyday is fantastic. And then, of course, writing is derivative. Basically everything that you experience and read and decide and all of those kind of things, it contributes to the way you spin your own stories. Would you agree? Yeah,
I think I'd agree. And first of all, Dave, thank you so much for being on the show, being a part of the podcast, and for having such a beautiful chat with Veronica. That was amazing. And I do love daily horror. Who doesn't love daily horror? I'd like hourly horror. No, I'm a sci-fi guy as well. But no, I think absolutely. It's kind of inevitable, isn't it? Just the same way as. I'd hate to hear, there's not many musicians out there that are going to be able to pick up an instrument and play something beautiful that have never listened to anything at all. And likewise, I'd hate to read a book by someone who's never read a book. And once you start reading, then those stories become a part of you, aren't they? I mean, effectively, that's what it is. The stories we read help make us who we are.
Indeed. I feel like they are seeds. Every book that you read is a seed that you plant, and you have to nourish it. You have to put more seeds. You have to give it some sunshine and, give it some water and stir the soil up and, mix and match, and all of those things contribute to who you are. And while you don't, drop your personality onto a particular character necessarily, I think, when you associate a character in a story, you can feel the threads and draw that kind of, knit together all of the parts of what they are. So, yeah, I think we cannot help but be derivative, and I think that's okay. I know some people will say they don't want to read thrillers while they're writing a thriller, and yet there are tropes that exist in particular genres which a lot of readers like. You can turn the trope on its head, you can twist it, you can make it a little bit different or interpret it in your own way.
Yeah, that's right.
But there are some things that are kind of, I won't say standard, but yeah, they're a trope. There's a whodunit. Either you hear up front or you don't hear till the end, and all the little clues and red herrings through a thriller. And
not only that, I mean, depending on what sort of genre you're writing, but yeah, if you are working on a piece that is going to involve tropes, that doesn't necessarily have to, but let's say it is, then you could do worse things than if you rather than physically go out of your way to avoid reading. If you like that genre and reading something, why not see what what some of the best-selling authors are doing, or one of your a story that's grabbing you. What grabbed you about it, and then outdo that trope, outdo the way that they use the trope, or take a little bit. Not only that, it's as you were talking, I was just thinking, like, as far as do we to what degree are our stories as authors, how many parts may have been inspired by or have remnants of stories that we've read. I think reading a story, ever since we were kids and growing up, all those stories we've read, they're kind of memories of events just like our real life events. In the sense of the memories making us who we are. And so when we draw back on memories to write, sure, there is technically a division between what really happened and what we may have imagined, but at the same time we've lived so many other memories. That's the power of books, isn't it? And some of those things that we can have memories of a life we didn't live, and we can draw upon those memories to help us create new stories that don't exist anyway. So
indeed,
that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing, and I almost thought you were going to get the word in that random image that we talked about, but no, you didn't quite go there, but that's all right. I'm really happy that, thinking about those things. And, yeah, it's exactly right. And what I also love is that sometimes it then gives you a language to, it just helps with the relationship sometimes. If, you can be talking about books, or we talk about 1999 or whatever events and those kind of things, and sometimes if you bond with somebody over a book you read as a child or last week or is on your to be read pile, it gives you just that kind of shared memory, and so that creates a good thing.
100%. Yeah, so there we go. David, thank you for amazing food for thought, or should we say words for thought?
Yeah, words for thought, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. And I do like also how some people are able to, David in particular, makes the everyday memorable, which is brilliant. And also just in my mind is thinking about putting the tropes on its head. And I've read not that long ago The Machine Dynasty by Madeline Ashby, and that was just amazing. And I was doing it as a little bit of research for my own book, I guess, Animoid, which people have heard me talk about. I have finished the first draft, you'll be pleased to know. It's just over, I think it's about 90,000 words. But I was looking for things that would, I guess, be derivative, but to give me some ideas of how people had treated, I've used bioengineered Australian animals and people, but in the Machine Dynasty, what happens is I'll just call them cyborgs, just for, robots for ease, but they then basically rebel and get their own sentience. So it was about AI and all that kind of thing, and just how the world might look from a different point of view. And some people have the most amazing, quirky, weird, where the hell did you get that from idea of how the world works, that you think, oh yeah, that's just so clever. I just love it.
But then you never know what world they've drawn on for those stories.
Exactly. So you know, what did Madeline Ashby read that gave her those ideas? I think that's fantastic. Yes. So yeah, mixed organic synthetic families, and yeah, it was really good. And I liked it.
Yeah, and I also like that idea, that concept of the everyday, the little things that apparently don't have any particular intrinsic value, shall we say. They're not cinematic in any way, but they can actually be the real horrors. They can be the real challenges. They can be the real adventure.
Yeah.
You know, something like a flat battery is something we all experience, but that could turn into something crazy. It's the just the little the everyday life. If it just takes that one little weird moment where it pivots just slightly, and you know, the day can turn so very challenging, or so adventurous, or so, you know, wondrous, or so horrific. And but it can start from the smallest thing, and you know, then it becomes almost like a not a house of cards, but like a very fragile eggshell upon eggshells is the daily reality. And that's where I find, and by putting a little spotlight every now and then to it, it can really enhance the day-to-day life, and maybe make us a little bit more anxious about it too, until we settle back into a moment, you know, that sort of contentment and feeling of safety.
Yeah, so, you know, I dare people to read The Terrible Event and read about the customer service rep who's become obsessed with a colleague who's worked from home for so long nobody in the company remembers her. So, you know, it could happen, people. It could happen. So, yeah, thank you, David. You've created a fabulous discussion. Really appreciate it. And what's next, Darren?
Well, it comes down to our quotes. And The Terrible Event, the concept of that book is the source of, well, not the source of, but the inspiration of my quote for this episode. Yes.
Okay, what have you got for us?
Oh, well, I've got one. I actually did a little bit of research for this one. This quote is by George Eliot, who was actually Mary Ann Evans.
Yes.
George Eliot was, of course, her pen name, and Mary Ann Evans was an English novelist, poet, journalist, translator, and apparently one of the leading writers of the Victorian era. But I thought this quote was really cool, a little bit to unwrap, but thinking about that concept of the terrible event and pulling apart the threads of daily existence. This is, I guess this is more of a reflection or a meditation, but the growing good of the world is partly dependent on unhistorical acts, and that things are not so ill with you and me as they might have been is half owing to the number who lived faithfully a hidden life, and those who rest in unvisited tombs. And that was by George Eliot, aka Mary Ann Evans.
I do like that. Very good, very good.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you a short quote from Charles Kuralt. And he was an American TV, newspaper and radio journalist and author. And he apparently used to do on-the-road segments on an American news show. But this is what I like this quote. I believe that writing is derivative. I think good writing comes from good reading. Couldn't agree more.
No, simple to the point.
Plain and simple. Indeed.
Undisputable, really. So there are our quotes. And don't forget, if you loved the show, you feel welcome to support us. We're really happy to take any support or stars or share, any of those kind of things. And don't forget, you'll find us on social media. It's a little bit hit and miss at the moment, but we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram and Threads, and we're on Twitter, not to be named by that other name, as well. And you can find links to the podcast there. If you're authors, be it short story, be it poetry, be it novels, you are welcome to put your book on the website for free. In terms of podcasts, we are a little bit chockers with people who would love to be on the podcast. But if you want to send us a cameo, so there's a little cameo and some book reviews at the beginning and end of the show. So all of those there. So there you go. We are at AustralianBookLovers.com, and you'll find all the links there. And please support Aussie authors, and remember, Christmas is coming, so books. We've also got Australian merchandise, Australian books merchandise. I just happen to be wearing my fabulous sci-fi author t-shirt today, which has a kookaburra with dragon wings, who is one of my favourites, thanks to Steve, our fabulous designer, and Cassie, who puts his design into our beautiful little logos. So everything under the sun, t-shirts,
hats, tablecloths, shower curtains, cushions, whatever you like, water bottles, coffee mugs. Yeah, you can do that, and we will get a small little stipend from that as well. So yes, Christmas is coming, people. Get yourselves, put your list of books that you want and share it with your family. Tell them these are the ones you want to read and put it out there.
Yeah, and of course, why not just jump onto the website and just maybe pick 2 books from every genre and just
that'd be good,
whether you do
yeah.
digital, whether you get hard copy, and that way you can if you look at the titles and then you've got one to give to somebody, one to keep for yourself, maybe keep them all for yourself, and then still tell everyone you want books for Christmas, and then you get lots more books, and then it's good. But thank you everyone for joining us for episode 99. The next one will be a little bit of a special edition, of course, because it is going to be episode 100. So I will not be taking any magic mushrooms for that one.
Good.
There will be champagne, I think, or maybe a vodka. But we have to think about a tagline for this episode.
Indeed.
We could be maybe, I don't know, shop owners behind the counter. We're actual, we look like just normal shop owners who make sandwiches and make coffee, but we've got dead bodies in the back.
Oh. Well, that's a thought.
Yeah, so maybe maybe we've got a customer in the shop who, we need to let to know to remember to read Aussie's books, but might also maybe matches the description of, or should I say, the style of victim that we like. So we're going to be friendly, but we're also, one of us going to go and put the close sign on the door. Veronica, did you want to put the sign on the door? And
yeah, look, I've just got a couple of specials that are in the back room. So why don't you come on through, and just as we're doing that, just get you to remember.
Yeah, look, just remember as you're walking out here, just remember it's nice and easy to read more Aussie books.
Don't worry. The slippery bits and pieces on the floor.
Yeah,
just look up. Just look up.
That light's a bit dodgy. We're going to get it fixed. Just keep on going. In you go. In you go.
There you go.
All right. Ting, 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 ting. The door's shut and business is closed. Meanwhile, everyone's walking past the windows on the way to their train, tram and bus.
Yeah.
And it's only a Monday. Well, in that scenario, actually, it's only a Monday today too, as we're recording it. There we go. Synchronicity. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
Thanks to all of our listeners and subscribers and readers and authors. Bye for now.
Hello, everyone. This is Hayley Walsh, author of Lighthearted Fiction and host of the Right Words podcast. But today I am here to bring you my review of One Summer in Santorini by romance author Sandy Barker. This book is book number 1 in the holiday romance series, and there are 5 books to enjoy in this wonderful series. Now, Greece has long been the number 1 destination on my bucket list, but alas, I am yet to go there. And I just knew I had to read this book. Remember Shirley Valentine? She had fun, right? And if, like me, you're an old fart and remember the film, the most fun she had takes place on a boat. Now, in this story, we meet Sarah. She is done with men and books a trip around the Greek islands, accompanied by a group of total strangers. Now, the last thing she wants is any drama, especially the male-inflicted type. But when she meets younger, sexy American Josh on the pier, sparks fly. Sarah discovers Josh will also be joining her on the voyage. During the trip, she also meets a handsome silver fox who promises to make all her dreams come true and sweeps her off her feet. Sarah was trying to stay clear of men, and now she has 2, both competing for her affection. Will Sarah embark on a holiday romance with one of these men, or stick to her plan of avoiding men altogether? There is a cast of diverse characters who join her on the trip. The descriptions of the Greek islands and all they have to offer are fantastic. It made me want to explore the hidden alleys of local shops, taste the food, drink the wine, and swim in the clear blue water. I wanted to meet the locals. I wanted to feel the Mediterranean sun on my face. I love this book. Sandy whisked me away to a place full of wonder, gorgeous scenery, great food, and most importantly, lots of romance. If you like a bit of drama, and a bit of romance wrapped in a breathtaking destination, I recommend this book. And of course, I give it 5 stars.
Let's meet again. Where magic happens.
Australian Book Lovers acknowledges First Nations peoples and recognises their continuous connection to country, community and to culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and honour the sharing of traditional stories passed down through generations. We're committed to a safe and inclusive welcome for authors and readers of all cultures and backgrounds, including people of LGBTQIA+ communities and their families.